Hi, music family. My name's David Jones. I teach the 12 bands and orchestra ensembles at Fairhaven and Whatcom Middle Schools. We just had an excellent first day here at Fairhaven. This is my 19th year teaching and my 14th first day in a new building, my 8th year starting middle school ensembles, but the first year I found a minute to write out and share some of the common questions that arise around the best job in the world, middle school music education. So I've put timestamps in the description to jump to some of the common questions we have from music families. Feel free to open that in description and click ahead to the section where your question is. What instruments are part of band or orchestra? And I'm speaking for Bellingham School District in 2024. Primary band instruments are the flute, which I'm not super great at, but I can play a B flat if I remember my fingerings. I believe it's this. And that's about all I can play without a lot of preparation and work. The flute, the clarinet, which I'm a little more proficient at. I'll play some hot cross buns for you. This is the clarinet, a Squidward's instrument. Next one was the trumpet. The trumpet, same thing. I'll just play the opening. I'll play the whole song. I'm a cellist, fair warning. I really try to practice the band instruments as much as possible. My strongest instrument is the cello. That's the trumpet. And of course, a trombone. Right, this is the trombone. And here's a little cross buns so you can hear the sounds. Of what beginning band can sound like. Trombone, and then one people don't really know about very often. I try and share whenever I can. I think it's my favorite instrument. I really like the sound of this one. It's called a baritone, which is, you can think of it like a miniature tuba, right? And students will sometimes start on this one and move to a tuba later on, or also stay in this one. It kind of fills in that medium-low section in the band. So a little bit on this one. So we'll move over to the orchestra room and show you your options in orchestra. So your options are, I grabbed the wrong one, the violin, which plays the highest sounds. That's the most number of instruments in the orchestra. They play the melody most of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time they play the melody. They have the highest sound in the orchestra usually. I'll play on the high string that they have, the E string. So this is that bright sound that all violinists love and hate, love or hate, depending on how the instrument is performing. And of course, it plays pretty low too. So not in tune. Okay, so the violin. And its bigger and lower cousin, sister, or brother is called the viola, and it has one extra low string and doesn't have that high string. So here it's its highest string. And then its super lowest string is the same notes as a cello, except one octave higher. Very rich sound, very dark sound. Often plays the harmony in the pieces that we work on. I'll move over to the cellos and the basses. And then the cello, which on its highest string sounds like this. On the lowest string. And this is my main instrument, so of course the song everybody wants to learn. And then another minute and a half of beautiful music. So cello is another option, and then the big cousin of the cello is known as the bass, double bass or contrabass, and I can give you a taste of the sound of the bass. There are some strength issues and finger issues for the bass that sometimes students aren't really comfortable with, so we try it out. Sometimes students start on cello first, but if the student really wants to make it happen, it's usually a good idea. So here's some hot cross buns on the bass. So out of tune. And then pretty close. Here's its very, very low string. And then the favorite thing of every bass player. Just kidding. So that's the bass, another option. So in the band room, the flute, the clarinet, the trumpet, the trombone, the baritone, like the miniature tuba. We have a violin, a viola, cello, and bass in the orchestra room. So those are some of your options. So that's the instruments in the band and the orchestra. Question about percussion and saxophone, which I should be standing next to. So here in percussion land, we can talk about the specifics of saxophone and percussion, which there's some special considerations around these instruments. So we definitely welcome students in these roles, but sometimes we have to provide some guidelines around how many students play and when they begin. So in percussion, as far as percussion, which is like xylophones, bell sets is what they're sometimes called. There's timpani over here. We don't have timpani at every school, but cymbals and shakers and the bass drum and the snare drum. Typically, we don't have students on a drum set. Till later on, sometimes for a rock piece or a jazz piece, we might have one student on a drum set. Kind of a special thing that some students learn maybe on the side and study a little bit, and later on we use them in a full piece. So it's not really a drum set, but we call it percussion, and lots of different instruments back here. The guidelines and the way we think about it is this. All of our 6th grade students, at least in the way that I've been running band, I found that seems to work the best. All of our 6th grade band students study basic percussion. We get some drumsticks and we learn some things together, and kids rotate through trying out some of the different percussion instruments and doing some small pieces together just to help develop rhythm together. So we use it as a rhythm and note reading tool throughout our beginning band instruments, because they can't play their main instrument the whole time at the beginning. They have to develop stamina in their muscles and breath control. So that note reading and rhythm skills, we kind of actually give them some percussion experiments, very limited, but so you get some percussion experience to start beginning to develop those really important skills in rhythm and note reading. But then once we begin working on our first real band piece that's typically in January, we audition students, we try them out, and by rotating them through in rehearsal. So we're all playing a piece and there's like a snare drum and a bass drum piece and maybe a xylophone piece. And so students that are wanting to, move into the percussion section will take turns during rehearsals, learning those parts and practicing, and then ultimately we as a team choose the students who are going to perform for the concert on that piece, because there's only 3 or 4 spots depending on, you don't really want to have 7 snare drums playing along with your band. As much fun as they would have, it's just the professional way that we do things, the traditions that we follow. It's usually just 1 snare drum and usually just 1 bass drum. We'll make some exceptions when we need to, but there's a limited amount of spots, and the students have to be really good. They have to be really highly skilled, right? And anyone can develop that skill. So this is because percussionists play a special role. They almost always are playing their instruments solo. There's no other people playing the same one, whereas the flutes, hopefully we have 4 to 5 flutes all playing together. So if one person makes a mistake, you might not notice it, and you have that strength of numbers. So they're usually playing solo by themselves. Their instruments are the easiest to hear above everybody else's. So it's a critical element that can make or break a performance. So we need to make sure we have the right students in these roles. So then students that want to specialize in percussion, focusing on their mallet skills, their xylophone skills, or their bell skills, going forwards from that point, we can do that. We just have to, for our current class sizes, we have to try to limit that to 2 to 4 students, but we hope that students have developed some basic proficiency on their trumpet or flute or clarinet, baritone, so that they could be a switch hitter as needed. And then throughout your career in band, lots of students take on a percussion role as needed, like, hey, we need somebody to do the shaker over here. Hey, trombone, why don't you come back here and play the shaker? So, a lot of us are pinch hitters for the percussion section, even if they're not a specialist. So few of us will end up being specialists, and it's kind of an organic process that we develop, but at first we don't really have any primary percussionists in beginning 6th grade band. So now about the saxophone, okay, because the saxophone has some other considerations, there's just very few of the instruments typically that we have as school instruments. And then some physical concerns around the instruments, kind of a big instrument, and there's some posture issues and some finger spacing issues that sometimes come up for 6th graders. It's typically better to start on the clarinet for a lot of students, start on the clarinet and go to saxophone, but there are students that can start on sax, so we're open to that possibility, but it is something that we want to kind of talk about with you and be aware of. So it's mostly an instrument availability issue. They're kind of expensive to maintain, and they're an expensive instrument to buy, so there's not a lot in our programs, and we don't usually want our beginners using them, frankly. And so if you're able to rent one, students can be successful. There's nothing wrong with starting on sax, of course. If you're able to rent one, that might make it possible for you to play sax. Just make sure that you talk with us or the music store or a saxophone teacher about the physical aspects of playing sax, and make sure that your 6th grader's ready for that, because sometimes I think finger spacing and just the size of the instrument can be an extra challenge beyond just learning a band instrument as it is. It's hard enough as it is. But so sax is got a few questions around it. So next one. Can my student try out one of the band instruments to see what works for them? Yes, please do. It's actually really important, but it's hard to arrange before school starts to have people try it. Blow on a flute, see what it feels like, because some people are really good at getting that sound and some people aren't. Same thing for clarinet, same thing for trumpet. Some people just go bam, and the trumpet sound comes out and it's great. And then some people will struggle with it. So trying out is great. I'd love to meet with your student anytime we can make it happen. With or without you, it doesn't really matter. I can make it work before or after school. Generally, I'm at Fairhaven on A days, and on B days I'm at Wacom. So let's make it happen. I'd love to let your student try things out, see what works best for them. We do a limited amount of trying out in class, but the more we can try outside of class, the faster and more accurately we get everybody to their instruments. Next one. Do we need to rent or buy an instrument? So no, but it helps. So any parents that are able to rent or purchase an instrument, that helps us maximize how many students we serve and how well we serve them. So if you're able to rent, not only you're doing a great service to your student by guaranteeing their choice of instrument, you know, that's the saxophone particularly too, but if we're out of clarinets, you know, I assign them to the older students first and do a sort of random assignment for the younger students. And if I run out of clarinets, you know, and I have to put you on your second choice instrument, you know, so a rental can help with that. This also allows us some more flexibility for providing home practice instruments for some of the larger instruments. So, you know, like a baritone and a cello and a bass, tuba, they really can't go home on the bus, and we don't expect students to carry it back and forth to school. But if you can, great, that's awesome. Sometimes students that are on our car transport every day, they can take a cello back and forth to school. That really helps us have more flexibility and serve more students. So if you rent, sometimes that helps us get more instruments into homes or practice instruments. There's some students also that have some transportation concerns that arise. So a home practice instrument really helps some students. So if you're able to rent, it does help us serve your students better and build better programs. And then plus our local rental programs offer a credit that grows with each monthly rental payment. So you'll, at the end of your renting through 6th through 8th grade or whatever, you'll have a big lump sum of money of credit with the local store that you can apply towards buying a high school instrument. And it'll even usually apply to a bigger instrument or the next next quality level of instrument too. So it depends on the store and their policy, but usually they do that. And then also when you rent, my kid is in 7th grade and he rents a euphonium, which is kind of like a baritone, miniature tuba. And one of the nice things is that that rental agreement usually covers basic maintenance and cleaning, you know, and some repairs too. It depends on what it is and it depends on their policy, but you know, if something breaks, sometimes that's something they can just cover, or sometimes you have to pay a small portion of the fee to fix it. So that's a nice thing, because our school instruments, we have a small budget for repair, and if something breaks on it, I can't always get it fixed right away. And you might have to play an even worse horn for a little while, or you might be, you know, playing the piano for a little while we try to find funds to fix your instrument. So the fact that the stores will sometimes help cover the repairs, or at least the repairs won't be very expensive. That's a good thing. And then feel free to contact me for a list of music instrument rental providers. We're lucky to have like several excellent businesses here in Bellingham supporting our students. Next question. Should I bring my instrument to class next time? Do we need our instruments yet? In general, the answer to that question is always yes. If we have music that day, bring your instrument, drop it off in the music room, okay? Some students store them in their classrooms, depends on your school. But yeah, just bring it. If it's a huge hassle for you, you can ask your teacher when we're gonna need them, because in the beginning days, there's a lot of stuff we have to cover and do that's not really music, and we try to get started with the music as soon as possible, but it's hard. There's a lot of things to figure out and a lot of questions to ask, and a lot of information to share, even with 7th and 8th grade students. So just bring it. It probably can't hurt. So even though it takes at least a calendar week, you know, a whole week, even though we skip days with our 8AV day, it takes that long to get our 7th and 8th graders kind of figure it out and playing. And unfortunately, even a bit longer for our larger 6th grade classes. And then there's even some special days where you might not need your instrument, but it's important to just get and stay in that habit. You know, if it's a band day or an orchestra day, bring your instrument to class. So thanks for bringing them if you have them. Then what about big instruments? Kind of talked about that. Basses and cellos, baritones and tubas, you know, the bari sax, although that's usually we only have one instrument for that and the student's responsible for bringing it back and forth, or arranging another way to get some practice time in here at school. But basically with the bigger instruments, Hopefully we have enough instruments to go around so that students who play these larger instruments can have an instrument at home for practice. Except for concerts and performances, they bring it because then, we might have everybody playing together, so we need your instrument. And then there's a school instrument that they share here at school, or for, wind instruments with the hygiene issues, we might have enough to, for your school instrument and your home instrument, but it depends on, how many instruments we have, what shape they're in, and so as far as the big instruments, transporting them back and forth to home, and yes, we do want you to practice at home as much as you can. I know it's challenging for a lot of families, but hey, if you can get 5 minutes in, 5 minutes counts. It really does. It will help. And if you can do that, our groups are going to sound better, you're going to feel better, and just do it. Says the guy who struggles with practice himself. I do, so I know. But if I can get 5 minutes in, I know that I've made a step in the right direction. So with big instruments, also, if you are able to transport the instrument, if you're already driving your kids to school every day and you can throw it in the back, cello, probably not a bass, but baritone or trombones, sometimes kind of big. They will let trombones on the bus, so those are ones we do take back and forth. But those bigger instruments, baritones and tubas and cellos. I guess tenor sax sometimes fit into that, but that's a specialist kind of 7th and 8th grade one that we don't have a lot of, so it's a case by case basis. If you can take it in as a car transport for band days and orchestra days, that's great. It really helps, again, maximize what instruments we can put in home practice as home practice instruments. So next question. What if my student is registered for the wrong class? If they want to play the cello but are in band, for example, that's happened here and there. We do our best, but sometimes we get some mix-ups, and sometimes when students register, show their preferences for things, it gets mixed up on their end, or we might put them in the wrong thing, or I don't know what happens, but I know that your registrar is working really hard at it. And that's the person you want to call. So email or call your school's registrar. At least at Fairhaven, her name is Marnie Hansen, and the registrar's name at Whatcom is Beth Pelto-Fishbeck, and you can look them up on the website or call the office for their extension and stuff. So call them right away if you think you're in the wrong class, and let them know of your students' needs. Sometimes the schedule switch is not possible. They just sometimes can't make it work because of all the complicated moving pieces and just the number of seats in each classroom for their teams. So sometimes not possible. So especially for 6th grade, trying the other side. If you're a cellist and you're in band and you play trumpet for a little while, you're not going to do a lot of damage. You won't fall really far behind because our programs with every other day practice, don't move at light speed. So I really think if you're in 6th grade and you're kind of in the one that you didn't really want to, but they can't move you, I think you're going to enjoy yourself. It can be a really rewarding experience too. So keep that in mind. Then of course your students, team teachers, and your counselor, they're also a good resource to loop in and ask for help to make sure we do the best to meet your students' needs. I feel like there's probably some more that students ask in class and parents have emailed here and there, but at least that's all in one place for people if they can sit through this and answer that question. Feel free to reach out, email, and the Parent Square app is the best way to get a hold of me. Thanks.